This is Boxes and Briefs, a podcast with real-life business stories. But we will be asking the hard questions and challenging traditions. So broaden your thinking with fresh perspectives and solve problems for business success. Welcome to another episode of Boxes and Briefs. My name's Lisa.
I'm Kelly.
And today we have with us the fabulous Nicole Coyne. Hello.
Hello, ladies.
Hi.
Hello, everybody.
Pleasure to have you back again.
Oh, it's great to be back here again.
So, for those who don't know, Nicole is the founder of Tikumu Consulting, 17 years of experience, and she does business strategy and leadership coaching, keeping in mind people, helping businesses nurture the most valuable asset, people.
100%. Well done. Yep, that's exactly right.
Excellent. So then, today we're talking about business leadership.
That's
what
right.
makes a good leader?
Yes.
What doesn't?
Yes.
Because everybody's version of good will be different.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
So what is the most common blind spot that you see in leaders who think they are doing a good job?
Oh, it's a really good question. So first of all, I want to define leadership, and there's quite a few definitions around what leadership actually is.
Context.
So for me, and it kind of fits in with the question that you were asking and the blind spots, is that the one definition I like to be looking at is a good leader is a person who surrounds themselves with people who can do the jobs better than them.
Ooh. Yes.
So people who hire people should allow them to do their jobs. And unfortunately, with people who think that they're good leaders, they tend to want to do those jobs too.
Yes.
So they don't allow them to do the work. So as a leader, you're not a doer in your business. You might have a job description and there might be very specific things that you're going to do, but you've hired people to do a job. So you're the mentor, you're the coach, you're the accountability person for them.
Yes.
And that's one of the blind spots that I find. The other one is, and this is something I see often, is that how I want to be led as an individual is going to be very different to how you want to be led. And so as a leader, you need to understand this, how I'm going to lead or even manage another person. So I need to have a conversation with you first. How do you like to be led? How do you like to be managed in this business?
You've complicated it a lot now.
Oh, have I?
What if you've got like 10 people that you look after and lead? Do you have to do them all differently?
Yes, you do them all differently. You have to lead them
That
all
sounds
differently.
exhausting.
Well, that's why you do the job then and then get other people to do other jobs, I suppose.
Yeah, because the whole point is to put you and motivate you as an employee to get the job done. So what do I need to do in order to motivate you? I need to lead you correctly. So you might be an individual who wants to have constant communication with me because you need to update me on stuff. And so I need to allow for that. I might have another individual who doesn't want to see me and wants to go off and do their own thing.
Stop micromanaging me. Leave me alone.
They see that as micromanaging.
Yeah.
The other person doesn't see it as micromanaging.
Yeah.
So how I like to lead in my behavior is going to be very, very different to the other individual. So as a good leader, there's no one style. There's no one type. Damn it. yeah. And if you get that right, you're away. You're
Okay,
good.
so you got to figure out people's
Yeah.
style.
And that's the reason why I do the behavior profiling, the psychometric profiling,
Right.
because it helps to understand how each individual likes to be led.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, if you're not figuring that out, a lot of it could look like bullying.
Could be.
Scary word.
Yeah. Could be.
So then,
Yep.
what are the subtle forms that often get overlooked that is actually bullying? Where's the line?
They don't deal with the situation. They just allow it just to sort of fester and sort of, oh no, it'll be okay. It will go, disappear. We'll push it under the carpet and they will be okay.
Yep.
So there's two different styles of bullying actually that we can look at. It's covert and overt bullying.
Okay.
So overt bullying is really in your face. You can see that, there's that aggression. It's like your schoolyard bullying with the big bully coming in and calling your names, stealing your lunch money and giving you a wedgie. That's overt bullying.
Surely that doesn't really happen anymore, does it?
You'd hope not.
You know, schoolyard? Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know.
All right.
But overt bullying is the Covert bullying is done under the waterline. It's done. It's never
Sneaky.
done. It's a sneaky version of bullying, and there's a really good, if as a leader, I think there's a really good TED talk that I follow. It's Julian Treasure, and he. His TED talk is about how to communicate with people who will actually listen. And in that TED talk, he talks about the 7 deadly sins of communication.
Okay.
And things like, which is going to answer your question, things like gossip, negativity, blaming, I wrote them down here, lying, dogmatism, judging.
Dogmatism?
Dogmatism is stating a fact and making everyone think that it's real, and you will listen to this fact and you will believe in this.
Brainwashing.
Yeah. It's like this is the answer, and there's no other answer to it.
Okay.
So this
No
is the
room for
belief.
opinion.
This is the belief, and you will believe in this belief. It's like pushing my beliefs onto you.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So those are subtle forms of bullying, because if you allow an environment and to become toxic, that's what happens. So you allow the gossip to happen, you allow the negativity, you allow the blaming, you allow all of that stuff to happen as a leader in your
Here's a
business.
question. Is there any such thing as harmless gossiping?
I think the rule of thumb for me is that if you can say something to a person and then you can go and say it to the person you were speaking about, then you're good.
Okay.
So you need to be able to communicate whatever you're saying to that individual, to their face,
Yep.
because that's your responsibility. But those are the things around that causes bullying.
Okay, so
Yeah.
again, the 7...
So it's gossip, judging, just being negative, so seeing the world in a negative space, complaining, excuses, and blame shifting, and then we have lying and dogmatism.
Okay.
Yeah. So those are all covert things. They're
Yeah.
all sort of happening under the waterline, which allows then for that environment to start festering.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yuck.
Yeah.
So how do you help a business leader be firm, maintain their standards? You've got a job to do. This is how you do it, or
Yeah.
how I want you to do it,
Yeah.
until you can show me that you've got a better way.
Yeah.
Is that acceptable? Because we started off talking about how you hire people to do their job and do their
Yeah.
job well,
Yeah. Yeah.
and hopefully better than you. But would you say it's kind of common practice? This is how I want the job done. Learn this way first, and then
Sure. So that's why when we hire people, we give them job descriptions.
yeah.
And we give them sort of a briefing of this is the expectations, and we want you to do it according to the vision of the business.
Yep.
And so there's a briefing system of what it is. So if you can lend your skill set to complete that job and deliver, then that's exactly what you need to be doing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the balance between maintaining standards without crossing into bullying
Yeah.
behaviour.
Yeah.
How do you help leaders do that?
There's a couple of things. The one is being very objective in when you're talking to the individual. So if you see that somebody in the organization or an employee is not doing their job correctly, and we get frustrated, we get angry, and we can, start losing temper.
Yep.
So when you have a conversation with them, is to do it with the right mindset. So you're
Okay.
stepping into that conversation in a very objective, in a very professional way. I like to use the term, it's a rugby term, which is weird because I don't actually follow rugby at all, but it's a really good term. It's play the ball, not the man. So don't be personal with that individual, because that's when you can start getting
That's
into
when
that.
they have like little fights on the
That's-
field.
yeah.
That's when things start going wrong. So
Yeah.
you only focus on the behavior, you only focus on the performance, you don't focus on that individual, because that's when the bullying thing starts happening. We start getting personal. with
You're
them.
not doing a good enough job.
Yeah.
This job
Yeah.
could be better.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like when we start calling people, you're lazy, you're this, you're that, you're not talking about the job, you're talking about the individual.
You are.
And the person will start shutting down, and they're not going to start listening to you.
Yeah.
So
Because they're just full of hurt then.
exactly. Dale Carnegie, he wrote the book How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Ah,
And
yes.
his very first principle is never ever criticize. Never. Because everyone just shuts down.
Yep.
Yeah. So you've got
Even
to,
with constructive criticism, right?
you've got to
They're still
do
going to be
it
hurt, even if it's
Exactly.
constructive.
exactly. So you've got to do it in the right place. You've got to
Yes.
give the right feedback.
Yes.
Also, creating an environment in the organization where it's okay to make a mistake.
Yeah.
Because if you can't make mistakes in a business, then people start hiding things.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is so true.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah. So being objective, being in the right mindset with that person when you have the conversation with them, and focus on the behavior, not the individual, in a personal way.
Perfect.
Does that answer your question?
It does.
Yeah.
Good.
Boxes and Briefs is proudly brought to you by Gilligan Shepherd, the problem solvers in business.
All right, Nicole. What's the one sign that a leader might be unknowingly contributing to a toxic workplace?
They're not stepping in and they're not taking charge straight away. They're not getting involved. And also...
But hold it, isn't getting involved be like micromanaging though?
No, when you micromanage the job. But when
Okay.
you start seeing, that's a great question, yeah. When you're seeing potential bullying happening, you've got to step in and you've got to deal with that. You're not dealing with the person's job or their tasks or activities or deadlines or anything. That's separate. But it's the behavior, the unacceptable behavior, if that's being seen. And also when your employees come and speak to you, because they're looking at you for support. They're looking at you to deal with something. And if you ignore that and you go, oh, you'll be okay, you'll be fine, just brush it off. No, that's one of the worst things that you could do ever. It's dealing with it and understanding that you might deal with bullying quite differently to the other individual. But at the end of the day, it's not about you.
Yeah.
It's about your team. So you have to take notice. You have to take charge. It might be something big. It might be something small.
Is it enough to pull them aside and say, hey, are you okay with that?
Yeah, for sure. Have the conversation. How do we need to deal with this?
Yeah.
Also putting in the right HR practices and policies. There's the anti-bullying policies that organizations need to have. Talk about those things with...
That's very scary. That takes it to a whole other level.
Yeah.
HR.
Yep. These things need to be dealt with. But
Yeah.
often, policy will be created and then it will just be left.
Yes.
File 13, gathering dust. So, you have to be talking about it, but it's dealing with it straight away.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you see it,
Yeah.
say something.
Say something.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Or just be curious. Go in and ask the question. What's happening? What's going on?
Yes.
Because people then notice, oh, okay, they're taking notice of this.
It's funny, like I'm relating this a lot to parenting. So bear with me a second.
Yeah. No, you're right.
So my daughter would get bullied a bit.
Yeah.
And I taught her that hurt people hurt. So she would kind of undermine the bullying by saying, are you okay? And ended up making friends with the bully. Great.
Often that happens, yeah.
She's learned empathy.
Yeah.
The thing is, then there were no boundaries. So it would go the other way,
Sure. Sure.
So see something, say something can also be a form of bullying if you don't say the right thing,
Sure. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you see something, yes, say something, but you've got to understand the context that it's happening.
Absolutely.
If it's really mean and in front of your face, of course you have to say something in the moment.
Yeah.
If it's subtle and you're not really sure,
Covert, yeah.
covert, then maybe talk to the person who was on the receiving end and say, how did that make you feel?
Exactly. 100%.
Talk to the other person on the giving end and say,
Yes.
did you realise that you could make people feel a certain way by saying
Yeah.
it that way?
Yeah.
So it's got to be in context, right?
100%. But so you're going and you're asking questions. You're going in, you're being curious. You're going in
Yeah.
and you're talking about it. You're not just ignoring it.
Yeah.
And just a point that you've spoken about there is that hurt people hurt. We'll often find people falling into we call it the drama triangle.
Okay.
And there's the victim mentality, there's the rescuer, and then there's the persecutor.
Oh.
And you'll often find the persecutor where everything in life is just so wrong. And they sit in that blame space. Everything's wrong with the world, and it gets ugly. And they get negative. And so the bully also has to, they're not sitting in a happy space at all. And they have to do some work, but they don't often notice that as well. In business, a lot of the time, bullies don't get the help that they need either.
Yeah.
So
It's if you can have that conversation that comes from care
exactly,
and be vulnerable yourself,
exactly,
it changes it.
absolutely.
Yeah. Love that. Okay. So for business owners listening who want to assess their own leadership style, am I good, am I bad, am I ugly?
Yeah.
I don't even know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
What can they do to start trying to analyze themselves?
Well, asking that question is the first thing, is that self-awareness. Is my leadership style, is it doing well? Is it adding value to myself in the business? Yeah. The second thing which I find interesting in this whole thing is that a lot of people think that there's only one type of leadership style that's accepted in business. So many people go, oh, I'm going to go into a leadership position now, so I need to be the most dominant person in the room. I need to be the loudest person in the room. Yep. I need to be aggressive because that's what leaders are. and it's not.
No.
So I identify what your leadership style is. And sit in acceptance with that and lean into your strengths of your style. I always use the examples of the different leaders that we have within the world. There was, you have your typical, leader that we understand as being dominant, but you also have people like Mother Teresa and Gandhi, and they were all leaders in their own right, but they weren't these dominant, loudest people in the room. No. So accept your leadership style, and then behaviors that you feel difficult to perform, like dealing with conflict or having those kinds of courageous conversations as a leader, you've got to start practicing that. You've got to practice the behavior. So, and be open to that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like it. Having the conversations, like when it's not business, with people.
Yeah.
Just to feel free to be yourself in a conversation.
Yeah.
That doesn't get you in trouble.
Yeah, but you don't have to be somebody else because they're already taken. You just need to be you.
Yes, there is nobody who is you that is youer than you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Thanks, Winnie the Pooh. Okay, so I'm a leader. I've assessed my leadership style. I've got my stuff sorted. When I see bullying, covert, because overt, I don't think really exists anymore. Might be every now and then. Somebody has a mental snap or something.
Yeah,
but
we move into child mode. Yeah.
Yeah. With the covert stuff, if I see it, how should I respond? I know you've said have the conversations, but I don't know. It's tricky. You don't want to hurt anybody or offend anybody yourself. You don't want to go out on a limb in case you're wrong and it wasn't bullying at all. It was part of some other conversation that they had. Like, how do you do it?
Well, I think all of us in our gut feel that when we see something, we see it's not right, doesn't feel right. And well, first of all, we should have zero tolerance of bullying in business. And the leader is the one who needs to take charge. And that really takes that leader to the next level where they actually go in and deal with it. So we've actually been touching on it of how we do it. We've been touching on this already is having those conversations, stepping in. If people notice that you are taking notice, they are more aware of their behaviors of what's acceptable and not acceptable.
Then, as a leader, is it okay to say, indulge in some gossip, negative, something you wouldn't say to their face, and then say, oh, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't have said that. That was quite negative.
Yes.
Can you guys help me, pull me up on that if I do it again? Is that an acceptable conversation?
Of course it is. Of course it is. And sitting in that vulnerable space.
So you can say, do as I do, don't do it. Do as I say, don't do as I do?
No. If we're all human, and if something does happen, okay, and you're going to catch up, say, apologize, I shouldn't have done that, that was wrong. If you can show your faults and be mindful of your faults and express your faults, you become more human. And and the people know that it's wrong to do that.
Yeah, you've called it out.
You've called it out. Yeah. Okay. All leaders will make mistakes.
Good.
They will. They will.
I know, we know this.
Yeah.
We do.
We do. So, I made a boo-boo there and I shouldn't have done that. And that's not acceptable.
We get into a mind space where we think we have to be perfect.
Exactly.
As much as you can say that sentence, nobody's perfect. We're all human. Everybody will agree with you every day.
Yeah.
You'll still try to be that person.
Of course. Aspirational values, aspirational behavior. And we all do that. But also remember as a leader is that is a saying that I use, smile, you're on stage. Everything you do, everything you say, people are watching you. You are on stage. Your behavior is mimicked by the people around you. So if you don't want boiling. If you want more open conversation and curious conversation, you need to action it all the time.
You need to be it.
You need to be it, so you make it a norm in your organization.
Yeah.
Yep.
Love that. Okay. Well, I know that the psychometric testing.
Yes.
Yes. I know that that's a great start in figuring out not only your leadership style, but
Yes.
also in figuring out your team's communication style.
Absolutely.
How they're happiest
Yeah.
to work. It gives
Yeah.
you a whole bunch of information.
Yeah.
So if anybody's interested in getting that done,
Yeah.
how can they get a hold of you?
Or they can just look me up on my website.
Okay.
Yep. Or they can look me on LinkedIn. That's probably a better option to do as well.
Okay.
But the psychometric profiling I do is extended disc profiling.
DISC, which
DI
stands
is
for the different.
for the different styles.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Appreciate having you.
Thank you. It was lovely to be here. Thank you. Good.
Okay.
Cool.
Boxes and Briefs is proudly brought to you by Gilligan Shepherd, the problem solvers in business.